Welcome to Bat Therapy, psychology of Batman, superheroes, and other comic book characters. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We are your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keeden Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources. Keeden, are you so excited?
I really am. I am. I've been. This is a moment. This is a moment because we are finally talking about the pettiest villain to ever grace any comic book or movie or television show ever. We are finally doing Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, aka Professor Zoom, not to be confused with the other evil speedster named Zoom.
Yeah, you were sending me something about Professor Zoom and then I got confused. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you cleared that up for me. And why did they do that?
I'm not really sure. And in the Flash show, they separate them as well. There's like a Reverse Flash, and then there's also a Zoom who is they did it different. Yeah, they do it differently there as well. But Reverse Flash is different in he is one of the only what makes him so interesting is as a villain, he does not want to kill his arch nemesis. He doesn't want to kill Barry because he can't. And at the same time, when I read up on Reverse Flash, which I encourage all of our readers to do, if you just go read Eobard Thawne's wiki, you will realize he might be the most villainous villain to ever villain. This man from the jump has just been he's just bad. He's just bad in every way. I'm gonna give a quick rundown on him. So he's from the future, like the 25th century.
Yep.
And he was socially awkward, as most villains always start off, right? Which is horrible because I want a villain that starts off as like the most popular person, right? Like we never get that. It's always someone that gets bullied or picked on. Like I'm like, hey, they don't always turn out to be villains.
Now, in like those 90s like chick flick movies, the popular kid was usually the bad guy. So, it's just the super villains for some reason.
Those same 90s chick flick movies, though, would always have the nerdy girl that just, took off her glasses and took out her ponytail, and suddenly she was a supermodel.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean,
they always did
glasses,
that as well.
Well, it's just, they're it's the Clark Kent effect.
Like, wait, why can't I like a girl with glasses on? I'm like, wait a minute. I don't like her anymore. She's popular.
Yeah. So with Eobard Thawne, I did not actually know that he was a socially awkward person. And unfortunately, you're right. When someone doesn't really fit into society, that doesn't mean you become a villain. That's just kind of how these things roll in the comics a lot of times. But when you usually don't become the villain if like we were talking about, like if you're the popular kid or if you fit in or if you go about life without really having too many struggles. There's not really anything motivating you to become the villain then.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is with time travel and everything, Eobard started like future versions of him. Started coming back in time and doing things. One of those things, because he was socially awkward, his parents were like, you know what? He needs a younger sibling. Reverse Flash, a future version of him, went back in time and prevented him from being born.
Damn, that's cold.
That is, it gets so much worse. It gets so much worse. And so he was obsessed with the Flash. He started off being absolute, like the Flash was just like the coolest person ever to him. And he wanted to tap into the Speed Force and basically be friends with the Flash. Like that's what he wanted, right? And so he was working at the Flash Museum in the deep in the future, and he became so obsessed with the Flash that his peers nicknamed him Professor Zoom. So that's where that comes from.
Oh, okay, okay.
And this is where it gets worse. So Professor Zoom had a crush on a girl named Rose. Rose was not crazy about him
Mm.
though, even though he kept trying to be like, go out with me and all that. Um, and so once again, a future version of him came back, killed all of her boyfriends,
What?
and then went back in time and mentally impaired her.
Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, and we haven't even gotten to Barry Allen yet. We haven't even glossed on Barry Allen. So this is a very, very spiteful.
I'm sorry. I've this is for some reason instantly taking me to Back to the Future, and I'm just like, man, that villain was nothing compared to this. In turn,
Right.
like you time travel to become rich and then abuse the people around you, which granted is terrible, but dear lord, this takes all of that to a whole new level.
Yeah. And before he became Professor Zone, he killed his boss so that he could be the one in charge at the Flash Museum. So yeah,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
there is that. Yeah, and so he ended up inventing the reverse Speed Force because the regular Speed Force runs on positive energy, which Eobard has none of. And so it was
I'm sorry.
no,
This
isn't it
is
great?
so
Isn't it
bad.
great? And I also love how they just kind of write this and just make it up as it goes along. It's like, no,
Oh
he
my
can't be
god.
part of this because it's the happy Speed Force. He gets
What
to be with
in
the
the
mean Speed Force.
I just can't even.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, and at that point, he realizes he's like, oh, I can't be friends with the Flash. So I guess I gotta hate him. But he also realizes he can't kill the Flash because the Flash was the one that tapped into the Speed Force originally and all that.
Yeah.
Time travel. I don't stress
Yep.
myself out with it. But he then proceeds to make Barry Allen's life a living hell. And because
Oh.
time travel is possible in this, he does some pretty mean things. Uh one of the bad ones, well, just one of them. He went back in time when Barry was little and literally was the monster under his bed scaring him at night.
Sad.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. He like this is a grown man.
Okay, so you're hitting on the same thing I am. I'm thinking about, and I know you're just literally starting your list here,
Yeah.
but you're starting with something that I think just really hits the nail. Okay, so there's this whole concept that people really struggle with in terms of accepting life as it is. Now, obviously, let's change things where we can that aren't ideal. But especially when something really upsets us or if someone really upsets us, um, how do we deal with all of the anger that might come from it? And finding a way to be able to move on and just accept that, okay, this happened, let me
Right.
versus this is the example as to why, okay, yeah, we might want to get back at someone, but at the end of the day, he's literally wasting his time being a monster under this little kid's bed because
Yes.
because of all of this. And I'm just like, oh, you could do so much more with your creativity and powers and time.
Like he's such like I really wish more people knew about this villain, and I was really bummed when they left him out of the Flash movie
Ah, yeah.
because I'm like, how do you leave him out? He's such a spiteful man. But yeah, he went back. He was literally the monster under Barry's bed, and then he
Wow.
proceeded to make his childhood just the worst. Like Barry was in Barry Allen was in Little League, which I don't know if we've said it. Barry Allen is the Flash. He's the
Ah.
second Flash, the main. He's the main Flash that everyone knows. But when he was a kid, he was in Little League. Reverse Flash ran back in time, made him strike out. Would move his arm so he wouldn't catch the ball. Pushed him down the stairs as a kid. Um,
Jeez.
oh, here's a good one. At one point, he left the door open so that his dog would run out and get hit by a car.
So, okay, answer me this. Because at some point he goes back in time, he murders Barry Allen's mother, and he
Yes.
gets Barry Allen's father
Yes.
imprisoned for the murder.
Oh yeah, he does that. Yep.
Okay, so my thing is that what is the order? Because you said like different version, different parts of him in the timeline go back and do all these things. What's the order? Because I mean, aren't you just done after you murder his mom? Like I'm just so confused why he would want to spend all of his energy just putting Barry Allen through all of these different
Just
things. I mean,
absolutely hating this man.
it just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. He's really bad. But yeah, pushed him down the flight of stairs, made him mess up in his baseball game. He would knock his books from his hand and make him lose his homework.
Sure, yeah.
Uh Barry didn't have friends growing up because he went back in time and prevented all of his friends from being born.
Oh my god.
Uh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he oh, and here's a another really sad one. So we talked about Flashpoint, right?
Yep.
And how Bruce's dad left the letter for him.
Yes.
Yeah. Reverse Flash went to the Batcave and just ripped it up in front of Batman.
Yep. I'm surprised he survived that situation.
Well, eh,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, questionable, but I mean, like, Bruce Wayne didn't kill him. Yeah,
But yeah, those are his greatest hits. Those are his greatest hits. And like he's standard petty all the time, but those are just the big ones.
yeah. And so here is the insidious thing about anger. So anger is really energizing. It does I wouldn't say it feels good, but we tend to like it a lot more than feeling sad or lonely or um uncertain, or there are a lot of things we can feel that we don't necessarily like. And a lot of times anger, it kind of lies on top of all of these other feelings, and it's more energizing. And so we I don't know, we can get stuck in the anger and it doesn't necessarily feel good, but we can feed it, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And so, for example, sometimes people say they want to go to therapy so that they can vent. Well, venting doesn't actually help someone through an emotion. If anything, it might just kind of build up that anger and you get stuck in it, and obsessive almost in a way where you can't really find your way out. And yeah, once again, man, is he such a just a an extreme, taking to the extreme. Hey, what if you were angry and you got a vendetta against a person and you just literally spent all of your time? And for this guy, he's got a lot of time because he's traveling through it. You're literally spending all of your time figuring out what are all of the ways that I can make this other person miserable.
Well,
I mean, geez,
and
what kind of
and
life is that?
and what makes him and one of the things that also makes it so different though is he idolized the
Yeah.
Flash. Like before he realized that he became the exact opposite of the Flash, he absolutely idolized him. He was infatuated with him. Like, he ran the Flash Museum because he knew so much about the Flash. And so this is the future. So he knows every single thing there is to know about the Flash, the same way a history PhD might know about one of the past presidents, right? Like they
Yeah,
did a
yeah,
PhD, like they did their thesis on it. They know this person forwards and backwards. That's how well Eobard Thawne
yeah.
knew Barry Allen's Flash. And so for all of that to come tumbling down, you're right. There was a ton of anger and a ton of rage. And what's bad is he could easily be a good guy. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like he's done so I mean, at this point he's done so much bad, it would be hard to go back. But if he did not have that spike, he would possibly be an even faster Flash. Like he's so
Mhm.
powerful and
Yeah.
he can do so much, but instead, like, he's like, I'm gonna go back in time and I'm gonna let Barry save his mom just so the world will be destroyed and he'll see that he caused it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's so, I guess the word maybe is unhinged. Like, he's so far on that level that he practically has tunnel vision and
Yes.
only sees what he can do with the Flash and doesn't even care about the rest of the world around him.
Yeah. And I mean, in some ways, if he was just going to redirect that and hurt other people, okay, yeah, let's focus on the other speedster who can hopefully handle you. But it's such a shame. I mean, from all of these things you're talking about, think about the skill set it would require. Think about the time and the energy and the resources, and just think about how thoughtful he would need to be to know how to set these things up so the dominoes fall in certain ways. I mean, this is a skilled guy. He doesn't just have a superpower of speed. He also has an ability to kind of see how things are flowing. And I think yeah, it's such a shame that he gets so caught up specifically on Barry Allen that that's all he's using it for. All he's using it for is in this like spiteful vendetta that he has.
And what's interesting is the things that he did, especially as Barry was growing up, because I mean, this is a villain that what makes him so different is he's been tormenting his arch nemesis. He's been tormenting the Flash since childhood. And the things that he's doing are things that all happened to us in childhood. You know, when I played Little League, I struck out, right?
Eh,
It was upsetting, but it happened, right? I
yeah,
struck out at Little League. I dropped my books
yep,
in school. You
yep.
know, I had a
Well, and
dog that
now
got
you
hit
know.
by a car, right? Like all of these
Yeah.
things are things that can cause trauma that did happen to you, whether you were bullied, like all of these different things. But in Barry Allen's case, Reverse Flash caused all of them.
Well, and so now we know that perhaps Reverse Flash has something out for you too, Keaton.
I, 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 that would be very petty. But that being said, like, if so, I respect it.
You're
I
like, I probably earned it.
I respect the due diligence. Um, and yeah, I respect the due diligence, but damn, dude, like you could go back in time and like bring back Dunkaroos, and you just
Are Dunkaroos not a thing anymore?
actually no, they came back, but I feel like they were gone for a very long time.
Oh,
Like,
I didn't know that.
oh no, I would have them go back in time. There was a cereal I used to like called Honey Nut Clusters. I would have them
Oh, I
go
remember
back in
those.
time and bring back Honey Nut Clusters. That's what I would do.
Okay. So this is another great okay,
Forget
so
making the
I'm
world a better place. I'm thinking about cereal.
But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna not only am I gonna hurt this person, I am I have so much anger toward this person that I'm gonna hurt them as a kid when they're not even fully developed into the person that bothers me in the first place. I'm gonna keep focusing on that. And exactly, this is someone who can kill people, can get dogs run over, can get a kid to lose in Little League, and still manage to make sure that that kid grows up and becomes the Flash so that everything turns out in the future so he becomes Reverse Flash. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's very skilled at this. He could easily bring back his favorite cereal. He could easily make all these other changes to make his life maybe more wholesome or enjoyable in some way, maybe even save the world. But no, he's going to make a kid drop his
He
books.
uses it to be spiteful to a child. Like I just I it's horrible because like the things he does is so terrible. There's a few things that he's done that I'm not even going to mention because it's so horrible. Like it's
Ugh.
like you can Google it and just see, but like he's such a spiteful person and he goes after everyone that Barry loves, which makes it even worse because a lot of the times when we think about what's most important to us, it's not ourselves, it's the people that we love.
Yeah.
And that's what's so scary about Thawne because he's like, well, I can't take you out, but I can literally take out everyone around you that
Yeah.
you love. And in one timeline, he does kill Iris West. He like think he like vibrates his he it was gruesome. He vibrated his hand into her head and then solidified his hand.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's just
And so yeah, he's very, very spiteful and it's like he does it to push to just push Barry to the edge because Barry Allen's a very wholesome, happy guy. Like
yeah.
he's a great guy.
So what is his end goal? Does he have one? Or is he just so angry that he's just doing all this stuff without really thinking about what his end goal is? Like what's the motivator here? What is the outcome he's going for?
I'm not even sure. I really do think his outcome is to just make Barry's life hell. Like he doesn't even have a logical I don't even think he
Well,
has like a logical end game. Like he'll have plans sometimes, but the majority of his plans are still just like I'm doing this to mess with the Flash. Even when he teams up with like other villains,
yeah.
it's still yeah, I just want to mess with Barry.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too. Okay, so you want to make his life hell. Well, you've listed out plenty of things that would do that, and he doesn't stop. And you even mentioned at one point, like he does seem to have kind of a little bit of an obsessive component to him. Like you were mentioning, uh, he would continue to ask the same person out, even though they were saying no, or he was all about Barry Allen, and then something happened where it completely shifts things, and now he's so focused on making Barry Allen's life miserable,
Yeah,
which arguably he's done over and over and over and over again, and yet he's not satisfied. He can't seem to stop himself.
yeah, and it's interesting because like you think about a lot of the different villains, they do have an end goal. Like when we did Ozymandias, like his
Yeah,
villainous plot was preventing nuclear war, right?
yeah,
Black Adam, which I don't think we've ever talked about Black Adam, but he's Shazam's arch nemesis. His whole thing is he's willing to do literally anything for peace,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's what his his villain level comes from. Um, a lot of the Batman villains, Mr. Freeze, he just wants to get his wife back.
Yeah.
Pamela, Poison Ivy. She honestly just wants to stop global warming. I'm kind of Team Ivy at this point right now.
I
But
know, right? I love her.
yeah, yeah. But Reverse Flash, his sole purpose is to ruin Barry Allen's life. Like, that is it. And that
But even so, I don't think he knows what he means by that. Like he doesn't seem to have a firm grasp of what that is because once again, he's done plenty of
yeah.
things to theoretically ruin Barry Allen's life. And also, I mean, Barry Allen is like you said, like he's the kind of person that I think is able to find a way through the hardships in a certain to a certain extent. I mean, like he went through a tough childhood. He dealt with all of this stuff happening to him and he's still putting one foot in front of the other. And so maybe that's what's bothering Reverse Flash is
Yeah.
Barry Allen keeps being able to get back up. But yeah, what is
And you know what?
how would he know if he accomplished what he was looking
You know
for?
what? You might be right about that. Like, Barry Allen keeps getting back up because at one point, Reverse Flash says, I'm gonna run back in time, kill your mom again, and pose as a social worker and
Oh,
raise you as my son.
ew.
Yes. Yes. That's like I can't like even if it's stuff I've already known about Reverse Flash, whenever I look at his greatest hits,
Yeah.
I still end up with my jaw on the floor like, wow.
So wait, how did that storyline end? I don't
I
know if I know that one.
I am I can't he didn't. He Flash stopped him.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Flash stopped him from doing that one, but he had plans.
Jeez. He's oh man. That's like a Law and Order SVU episode right
It's
there.
crazy. It's wild, right? Well, oh, can't say crazy. Whoops. I know I've been doing so well. I've been
You
doing
have
so well.
been. You've been doing well. It's wow. Yeah. And okay. So we have someone who is just so set on ruining Barry Allen's life. And then or making Barry Allen miserable or doing bad things to him. There's something here. But he does all of okay, some of the things are super petty and I can see why he would do more super petty things. But then he does these huge things, killing a mom, getting the father to be accused and convicted of said murder, uh, uh, killing killing his wife later. You know, you talked about all these different things. And yet, even the things that he's been able to successfully follow through with, it's not enough. It's never enough. And once yeah, I was talking about feeding it. It's like venting. He's feeding the anger. He's feeding the resentment. You'd think that following through with some of these terrible things he's doing, he'd be like, haha, job well done. And he could retire, whatever that would look like for him. But no, he can't, he cannot stop.
Yeah. Yeah. He just has it. He just really, really has it out for him. And he's such a unique he's a very unique villain in that because he also just exists outside of time. He's just like this
Uh,
time goblin that's just running around, just running amok, just messing things up, and focused on this one person. But it's because at this point, he also doesn't really have a home, which is really interesting.
ah.
Like when you think about Reverse Flash, it's like it's not one of those things like where, oh, after this, I'll just go home. He's just constantly bouncing from
Mm.
timeline to timeline to timeline, just jumping around. He doesn't really have a home base.
And here's the thing, if you are so hyper focused on how you're going to impact someone else's life, and in this case, for the worse,
Mhm.
he's never going to have a home.
That's a
He's
good point.
too, he's too focused on someone else. If all you're doing is thinking through how you can ruin Barry Allen's life, you're never finding how you can create a home for yourself. And so and I'm assuming that, some of the ways he feels related to not having a home, he's probably then blaming Barry Allen for, when really he's not spending any time or attention on his own self. So of course he doesn't have a home. Of
Yeah.
course he's flitting around.
Did I mention he killed his parents? He killed his parents.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Oh no. No, you mentioned that he got rid of his younger brother. I'm not
Yep.
sure.
Parents too. Parents too. Got rid of his parents as well. So
So, God,
yeah.
uh
So he doesn't really have a physical home, but also like, yeah, no home.
this guy is a time travel headache, because I'm
He's
also like, okay, so how many divergent timelines has this guy created?
hundreds, hundreds and
Yeah.
hundreds. Like, there have been issues of the Flash where it was like a one-off where he would just go make a new timeline and just to mess with Barry. Like
Well,
he's different. He's very different. And
ugh,
I've been so excited to talk about him because I really this is one of those I would love to hear from our listeners because I would like to hear their thoughts on Reverse Flash as well because he's doesn't fit the bill of most villains. Most villains are just annoyed that the hero foils their plans,
right.
right?
Yep.
But he honestly, the only one I can really think of that I can compare him to kind of is the Joker, where the Joker
Yeah.
just kind of does things. And even with the Joker, though, it's to get Batman's attention, right? It's to get his attention and mess with him. But this is different. Like, this is on another level. And I think it's because Joker does not hate Batman.
Right.
He
Yep.
doesn't hate Batman. Eobard hates Barry.
Yeah, and I agree both with the similarities and differences you're talking about there. I mean, there are some times where the Joker grows tired of Batman just not kind of following the towing the line that he's wanting him to, and then it gets
Hmm.
pretty brutal.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking like Death of the Family in particular.
Right.
But in general, yeah, he doesn't hate him, but there's also this same push pull where um he's like playing off of the hero and really sees it as we're both existing in this together. And so kind of like you were talking about with Flash reverse. Okay, so in this case, he hates him. He'd get rid of him if he could,
Hmm.
but he can't.
Right.
And so you've got like a similar push pull, but the vibe is quite different.
Yeah. It's it's very like I think I've said it over and over again. He's very unique and he's whenever he shows up, it's like, oh boy, I have no this is about to go
Yeah.
way off because he pops up everywhere. I even think he was in the Suicide Squad at one time. Like
Oh.
he shows up all over the place, which I'm not going. I really need to find that and read it because thinking about Reverse Flash and the Suicide Squad, like that's about the biggest wild card that you can possibly
Yeah, you thought Harley
have.
Quinn
Like
was a
he's
wild
there
card.
because
Nah.
he has a plan to be there
Yeah.
with him.
Well, and once again, that's the thing. I mean, clearly he has to have genius level intelligence. Or I guess if you're a speedster, maybe you can think about it for a really long time.
Yeah.
So maybe he's not that bright, but he thinks quickly. Either way, yeah, he has such a strong ability to line things up in a particular way. If only he could use that for the good of himself instead of for the bad of someone else.
Right.
That's just such a shame.
Yeah. It would be very, very nice. But yeah, and he has like and what's bad is he has most of the same stuff that the Flash does. He has the cosmic treadmill that Barry uses to go back in time, which I feel like they kind of did away with the treadmill in modern versions. They just run
Yeah.
super fast. And so yeah, I, he leaves me speechless. He absolutely leaves me speechless. I think I'm trying to decide what my favorite horrible thing is that he's
Ooh.
done. One of the things he's done with a lot of Flash's loved ones is drop them in time loops and make them relive the worst moments in their
Oh,
lives,
jeez.
like the most tragic things that ever happened. He would just
Yeah.
drop them in time loops and make them relive it
Yeah.
over and over again.
Ugh. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
But and like I said, I'd started talking about this a little bit before, but I think what's so interesting about him is the thought that every embarrassing moment that you had in your childhood, everything that happened in your sports games when they didn't go the way they want to, imagine all of those things
Yeah.
having one source.
Oh.
And that's interesting. That's so interesting and also wow, right? Like it and when I think about it that way, I really just that's what really makes him so different and unique. It makes you think. He's one of those villains that like really makes me think because I always think back. Like I've had plenty of embarrassing moments, plenty of them, so many, and to think that, oh wow, the only reason that happened is because there's one spiteful human being that for the last 36 years has been making these things happen to you.
So how aware of this is Barry? I mean, obviously he knows about certain things, but does he know about all of them?
Oh, so he becomes aware of it because Reverse Flash tells him. And there's a really
Okay.
funny meme out there on the internet where it's like just Reverse Flash going, "It was me, Barry." And people just insert literally anything in there, and it was
Yeah.
for that meme because he told Barry like all of the different things. Like, oh yeah, your friends, I undid them from the timeline. Remember when I left you left the door open and your dog got hit? That was actually me. Remember when your house burnt down? Yeah, I started that fire. Like he was so excited to just give him this Dead Sea Scrolls long list of ways he's made his life hell over the past 25 years.
That would almost be like it'd be so hard to believe that someone would be just so intently focused on you that they would do all that and quite frightening to be honest.
Yes.
I mean there's kind of a stalker-esque thing to this where I mean I mean you were even say he doesn't even have a home. He's spending all of this I cannot I keep going back to all the time and attention that he's spending on this. Like it's like, it's ridiculous the level. I
Yeah.
mean, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
I was so excited to talk about him with you. Like I was so excited. Because you know, I've talked about Reverse Flash
oh,
before
you
and how
love
he's the
him.
pettiest man alive. But like finally getting to like tell you why has been absolutely wonderful.
What do you think what do you think it would have taken? Like, I'm wondering what would have led to a different path for him.
Hmm. Part of me wonders what would happen if his parents weren't so intent on fixing him
Oh.
and just letting him be socially awkward. Because what originally happened was they had their son, the second son, because Eobard was socially awkward, but that son got on his nerves so bad that
Uh,
that happened. Um Also, I think if he hadn't been so hyper focused and infatuated, because I think the infatuation is what led him down that dark path. That infatuation with the Flash, like That was the only thing that mattered. That was the only thing he was looking at. And he couldn't handle rejection because I think about the girl that he
Yeah.
handicapped. There's also something there. Like honestly, number one, therapy. I think that would have helped. 25th century, they should have damn good therapy, right? Like it should be really good. Prescription medications, excellent, right? Like they it should be that's number one. But yeah, I really think the what happened here with him was his absolute infatuation and then that glass shattering moment when he realized, oh, this can't happen. It kind of reminds me of when people are super infatuated with celebrities and
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
find out that they're a terrible person and then they're
yep,
just super distraught and upset like,
yeah.
"Ugh, I thought you were great. I was obsessed with you. I had your posters on my wall and then this happened and it just makes you super frantic." And with him, he made all of the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
Um but also it's I think it's always really unhealthy to completely focus and get infatuated with just one thing.
Well, and so here's the thing is that when you have trouble connecting with people, you tend to have less people for a few different reasons. One is so I like to talk about how there are some people who seem to get along with everybody or almost everybody.
Mhm.
And they can connect with a lot of people. And then there are people who are like quirkier or different, or there's just things about them that it's not a there's something right or wrong with them. They're just certain characteristics about them mean that it's kind of more like a fine wine, right?
Mhm.
Where it's they're gonna have to try harder to find the people that they match with. And it sounds like he might be that kind of person where he was it would take more to be able to connect. And sometimes what can happen is if you don't have as many ways to connect with people, then when you do find something that you relate to, you might really grab hold of it only naturally because you know how rare it is for you or you don't get that feeling or that sense of connection that often. And so you can really, really focus in on that. And unfortunately, sometimes there can, say, be a mismatch, like with this girl or with the Flash. Or just generally something small can happen that for maybe someone who has, say, a lot of people that they can relate to or um admire, it doesn't shake their world in the same way because you have more people or things to balance it out. Um, so yeah, that is definitely interesting with his parents, and I'm a little confused as to how having another kid would help him with his social awkwardness. Maybe just like, hey, he has trouble making friends, so we'll give him an automatic friend and a sibling or something. Like, what was the
Yeah, I'm not really sure how
yeah
that one works. And also like reading it, it made me question like I'm an only child. What would I if would I be a better person if I had a sibling? Is that what it's saying? Maybe.
Do you want me to answer that? You know how I'm gonna answer that. Of course you most things would make you a better person.
I don't wow. What most things would make it wow. Well, you're the doctor.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
I only speak the truth.
Ouch. Gosh. But yeah, but one thing I will say too is I'm trying to figure out because Reverse Flash hates Barry Allen, but he's
Yeah.
also kind of a misanthrope, right? Like he hates
Mm.
humanity.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I believe that that started before he became Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that he had to focus on was, oh, I'm going to be friends with the Flash.
Mm. Yep.
And when that happened, he's like, I've turned my back on humanity. I don't want anything to do with them, but I'm going to be friends with the Flash. And when he realized he couldn't, he didn't have a home to go back to,
Yep.
he wasn't going to be friends with the Flash. What can he do? He's going to become the exact opposite of him. And I would really like to dig into him some more and see if there's anything that he exhibits symptoms of, because he
Mm,
like he's very interesting character, especially when you the way he interacts, like he just has it's it's concentrated rage. Like he just has this
yeah,
anger. Like,
yeah,
and it's not even that like this uncontrollable anger. It's pinpointed. It's weird. I can't
yeah,
even really describe it, but when you hear him talk about the horrible, evil things he did, he's saying it like he's telling someone how he didn't pay his parking meter. Like he's saying it so nonchalantly, like it doesn't mean a thing. Like, oh yeah, Barry, that was me, and this was me, and I did that
yeah,
too. And your mom died, and I'm gonna go back in time and I'm gonna kill her again. Like he's just frantic
yeah.
and ranting and just like, ha, look at me. He yeah. He also loves himself quite a bit.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking back to I think we've had this conversation before, but man, it's gotta be really hard to have time travel as an option for you.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we've talked about how there's always an opportunity to go back and adjust something, change something, quote unquote, fix something or break something in his case. And it I can see why it almost sounds like there are these characteristics about him that lead him to be infatuated with time travel because it feeds into kind of this obsessive nature of things and of paying attention to all the details and not letting go. You
Yes.
can literally choose to never let go and keep going back and back and back and back and back. And at the very least, I mean, honestly, there are a lot of rough points where people go, man, I wish I could go back in time. But you may not ever be able to stop because will it ever be good enough or bad enough in his case?
Right.
Will it ever be good enough or will it ever be bad enough to stop?
And that's what also
And
makes him scary. He's never content.
yeah, yeah, he's never content. And so that's what I think is the brutal nature of this superpower is that the I think we struggle enough with is something good enough or was that person punished enough or uh when like I was talking about before, when can you let something go and just accept and acknowledge, okay, I've done what I can, uh and now I just need to move forward. And he can't move forward. He keeps going back and back and back and back and back and he just
Yeah.
cannot let go.
And he wants revenge for something that the Flash didn't do. It's like he wants
Yep.
revenge for just his existence.
Right. And whose existence is the question too, because it sounds like he's angry at Flash's existence, but in some ways it sounds like he's angry about his own existence
Right.
because he's never able to connect. He thought he finally found something. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head is part of why he's never going to be content is he's aiming at the wrong target. He's not actually aiming at what's going to resolve the issues for him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Oh man, he's a big one. Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keeden Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JVS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.